just for example, I'll just add a count. So this is just for testing. So initially, let's put the count to 0, and let's write a reducer, right? So similar to our Redux store set state function, what we have to do is we can just update our count with our reducer. So let's write our first reducer, increment count. Okay. So the the reducer function actually has access to two parameters. That means you can take the state as a parameter, and you can say actions, right? So this state here will represent your actual state, like the initial state you have here, and your actions have some properties that determines how your reducer is going to act. So if you want to add some data, you can send it through your actions payload. So in this case, for example, if I say if we hit the increment count, then I want to increment the count in our state by 1. So I will say state dot count equals to let's do plus. Okay, I'll just do plus plus. Okay, all right, and let's do decrement count state action. We're not really using the action property. Okay, we'll say state dot count minus minus. Okay, now if we want to use these use these actions, so we have to export them. So how do we export them? We can just say export const, and we'll get this from createSlice dot actions. So we can say increment count and decrement count. So so as you can see, these actions are exported from our createSlice dot actions. That means whenever you are creating a new slice with our createSlice function, it will give you some actions, like whatever actions you are writing in the reducers, it will automatically act as actions. So your reducers will act as actions, directly as actions, if you export them from your slice or whatever createSlice function you are using, right? So then we have to export the actual slice, createSlice dot reducers. So I'll say export default createSlice dot reducer. So now we have to export the reducer from here too. So we have to export two things. We have to export the actions. So we can call these actions to change our state. And then we have to export the reducer. So both of these are coming from the slice that we created with the createSlice function. So now what we have to do with these reducers, right? So let's go back to their documentation again. So in the store, we have to set up these reducers, right? So let's do that. If we go to our store, now the reducers we have created here, we have to add those to our store. So these reducers, like the createSlice, it is not really connected to our store yet, right? So we have to connect it to the store. So to do that, we can just inside our reducer, we can just name it cart, and as property, we will just cart reducer. Okay, so sorry, not this one. This one is not imported. createSlice dot reducer. Am I doing something wrong here? Okay, let's check the documentation. Export default counter slice dot reducer. Okay, they are doing the same thing. My import isn't working. Okay, let's try naming convention. Let's say const card reducer card slice, then export default card reducer. Okay, now what? Okay, now it works. All right, so now we have added the slice that we created to our store, and our store is connected to our provider. So how do we access that in our code? Okay, so let's check the documentation. How do we access those? So our store setup is done. Our actions are created. So how do we access those? To use Redux state and actions in React components, right? So now we can use Redux hooks to let React components interact with Redux store. We can read data from the store with useSelector, and we can dispatch actions with useDispatch, right? So if we want to interact with our Redux store, we have to use their given actions, the given hooks. So if we want to get something from the store, we have to use the useSelector hook, and if we want to dispatch an action, that means we want to change the Redux store, we have to use the useDispatch function. Sorry, hook. So how do we do that? Let's go back to our product top page. I think I'll do it here. Let's do. So how we use it is, we'll say const. We'll use destructuring here. Right? Okay, let's not use destructuring. I'll say card equals to use selector, SELA selector. Okay, so this one is coming from your selector. So inside your selector, you have to actually get a callback function that is, where is it? Use selector. Yeah. So this callback function will have access to your state, and then you can define your state from here. So what we have to do is we can just take an parameter called state and an arrow function, and then we can say state dot whatever the name you have added in your reducer, like you have added it, we have added this as cart. So if you want to access the cart, we have to say state dot cart, right? And then console dot cart. Okay, let's see what we get. I think our UI is broken now, most probably. Let's reload. Okay. So we have got our Redux store, our card item is null, and our count is 0, right? So we have successfully connected to the Redux store.